I be walking around with the AK-47 like I'm in Syria. You thought that she was loyal, we gon' trade her like Ethereum. Why did Building 7 fall? I guess it's a mysterium. Yeah, all these hoes want a piece of Gerbert. I might go and do a bitch dirty. I be racing to the money like Kentucky Derby. I don't want you to slurp me. Bitch, go to 7-Eleven, get your boy a Slurpee. Peace. Alright. That was alright. I guess it's a mysterium. Time. Time keeps on going, and it doesn't stop. I'm like 32 years old now. No bitches, no money. I mean, what the hell is going on? It seems like is it just me, or is time just going faster and faster? I don't think it's just me. I get all these emails saying, my life's passing me by. I'm gay. Just saying all this crazy stuff, and even these confessions. By the way, I'm going to do a new Google form that's it's probably going to be like your most black-pilling moment or something like that. I thought that was a good prompt, so that'll be in the description. I'm going to do more of those. It's good content. But time keeps moving faster, and there's a degree to where it's arbitrary. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's never too late, but that's a little bit of a cope. We have studies that say you reach a certain mental sharpness at an age. Your brain fully develops at 25, but there's actually like a quickness, a sharpness that peaks at around like your late teenage years or when you're like 20. And they say after you turn 20 and if you've never been in a long-term relationship, your chances of having a marriage goes down quite a bit. There's a lot of stuff like that. There's something about youth that is important, and if not seized, it is unfortunate. There is something lost there. It's mentally worrying. And so when we perceive time as just quickly passing us by, it's frightening. It's more than like existential, but or like common fear of missing out. There is actually it's really a bummer, truly. And I've touched on this before in my Why Men Aren't Growing Up, something like that video. There's a certain concept I talked about. And by the way, that video was released like almost a year ago. It's crazy. That was just for me. I mean, it was just wild seeing that was a year ago. But there was a concept I touched on. Time, here's why this happens. The way we perceive time is not consistent. It's not constant. For example, I could look back on February of this year and say that was kind of a long month. I have a lot of standout memories from that month. It seems like that was a full month. Whereas March, I was kind of just doing the same routine. It's almost like a blank space, right? So there's this concept of you look back, because the way we cognitively perceive the passage of time is through our memory. That's what gives it all its context. That's what it's all based upon, is our memory. That's how we perceive it going. So time shrinks or expands based off how many memories you are creating. Which means, there could be a year that feels like a month if you're just doing this, if you just live this very monotone, you're doing the same thing every day. It could just go by like that. In the moment, it might be constant, but the whole way we perceive it is based off our memory. So you look back and it all blurs together. But in the same way, if you have a very, busy, very eventful month, it could feel like a year. You could stuff all that time there, or it could expand and nothing, it could be completely empty a year. And if you really think about it, that means time is not at all equal. You could be the exact same age as someone and they could have lived way longer based off the amount of experiences they have logged in their memory when you've just been doing the same shit for 28 years. For example, this desk, right? I don't perceive this desk the same. I don't log everything in my memory. It's all accounted for. I remember assembling it and organizing it for the first time, but I haven't changed it since then. So it's there. It's the same. So if you're going by your day and you're seeing the same thing over and over, it's to a degree, it's like you're almost not even living. So that's one thing. It's monotony. If your life is monotonous, you adhere to a strict schedule, you do the same things. That's one aspect of it. But it's not the whole thing. Because in the past, people's lives have also been monotonous. People lived in the same farm and they just did farm work and chilled in the same village their whole life. But there's more things about specifically today that make time, that speed up the passage of time. And by the way, the speeding up of the passage of time, interestingly enough, is mentioned in a lot of apocryphal or end times literature of time moving faster. And whether this is a metaphysical thing, the hand of God is speeding time, or it manifests in these things I'm going to talk about. I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. But, okay, it's not just monotony. Sure, a lot of people's lives now are monotonous, but it's also characterized by an emptiness. See, people in the past, maybe, they didn't even have the ability to travel or go far. They stayed in the same place. But they had their lives were not as empty. They had strong belief systems, strong communities, strong families. I think about any other time in history, and there's no frame of comparison for having people's lives be as monotonous and as empty as they are today. It's not just about schedule or routine or, because that's good. That's like being an adult. But if you don't have a family, if, most people have friends, right? But not a community. People go to work and they see their friends on the weekend, hang out for a little bit, then they go back to work. It's not like, even if you live with some friends or you have a small little family, people's households used to have a bunch of people in there that you knew very well. There was never a time in history where you had to go seek out community. It was inbuilt there. And community comes from family. This is what in my opinion, sociologists worthy of name agree that community comes from family. People have to form families in order for community to actually be present in a society. That's a little bit of a sidestep, but it's monotony and emptiness. You think about a guy who just gets out of high school or college. You go get an office job. All your time is spent there. It's heavily routine. You go home. At that point, all you're going to do is cope. Now here's the third thing that speeds up time. It's obviously, it's new media. It's digital media. It's well observed how it's like a time warp. People talk about how they will scroll on TikTok, especially algorithmic entertainment that sorts out, it finds what you want, it constantly, an endless feed. Things like this. YouTube's algorithmic, TikTok's algorithmic. But even stuff that's not as algorithmic, like television, like if you're watching Netflix or whatever, it still is a bit of a time warp. It speeds up time. People talk about how they could just fall in these things and then like hours fly by. And there is a reason that is, and it links back to your memory. Because while you could say there is actually a lot of data that you are getting from the internet. It's a lot of information, but in the same way, it's not. It's like faux information. I think I scrolled on Reels like 4 days ago. I can't remember what I saw. It's just like a blur. And this is because you are receiving this information, but you're only engaging sight and hearing, 2 of your 5 senses in interacting with this media. And it's like faux versions. It's like vibrations from speakers or headphones and pixels on a screen. So you're not actually getting a full array of sense data that logs in your memory and that gives you experience that then enriches time. So you look back on it, it's not really like you did anything. That's why it's like a time warp. Because during it goes fast because there's just information. It's stream of consciousness continually feeding algorithms. And then looking back, it's nothing. Because your brain doesn't process it like actual life. And the average Zoomer spends, 7 hours a day on their phone? And a lot of jobs are just like sitting on a computer. So that speeds it up even more. So there's monotony, that's always been there, but that is an aspect of your life. That is an aspect of time that will speed up time, is the lack of novelty, the lack of making novel experiences that log in your memory. It's also emptiness. Even if you do the same things every day, looking at it like purely logical, you could say that having a family or having a community, having more people in your life that you care for, that you work for, logically that does add more variables, more variance, whatever. But I think it's even more than that. I think it just adds a depth that enriches your time, makes it feel more dense. It's not even just about the more data entering your brain. It's something transcendental about it. And then media. And all of these things are unique to now. Makes time spend, that just makes people's lives fly by. And it's a wicked concoction, because now that people's lives are more empty, right? There's not, like our culture, our country is quite empty. There are little spots of culture if you know where to look, especially in cities, but most people's lives are quite devoid of things like that. It's quite empty. If you just go outside and walk around, it's like I don't want to hark on this too much, but people out here talking about go outside, I feel like they're just like old people who don't know what it's like to be young and go outside, because there's actually nothing. Especially if you don't live in a city or like a big city. Like you go outside and you realize how empty everything is. How there's no cohesion, there's no social trust. It's just like fucking nothing. And of course, this emptiness in people's lives is going to be filled by media. People, if you find yourself eating dinner by yourself a lot, right? When you come home from work or school, if you don't have a family, if you're home alone, whatever, you're not just going to sit there and eat your dinner now. You're going to watch television or YouTube. And this is obviously it's going to kind of take you away from the experience, and just, you're not going to be able to look back at that, you know? All this empty time, all this emptiness in people's lives is filled by this media, which, as I said, speeds up the process of time. It warps time. It deletes time functionally. Let's see if I have anything else to say. Give me a second. Now, I guess to end this video on a more positive, less doomerish note, if you're a guy in your early 20s, you're getting out of high school, you're getting out of college, not a lot of dating experience, you go straight, working a job, a full-time job, and now you have to try to meet someone, you're doing all this just to pay the bills, like, now you're fully in it, and the time's gonna pass, and it could just be 10s, 20, all these years later, and it's just gone. So you're gonna have to, I can't offer individual solutions. People's situations are different, but if you find yourself in that position, it's gonna take some sort of radical personal action. Gotta figure something out, some way. Because here's the thing about a 9 to 5, like, I think a lot of boomers are like, they get it wrong. I would totally be down to work a 9 to 5 if I was working for a family, which, like, starting a family now is tricky. The dating market is fucked. The relationships are unstable. And if I was working for a currency that actually had value and wasn't rapidly diminishing. It's like, it's not the job, it's that it's working for fucking nothing. What am I working for? Just to live and then die? Like, get real. So there's that. Yeah, if you're in that system, that's tricky. You're in the further stages. If you're before that, if you're still in school, you have to understand that, like, once you're out of that shit, you just get tossed into, you're very likely just going to get tossed into a world swallowing, monotonous, dull, death spiraling cycle. I don't know. Okay. See, here's the thing, like, people always like, oh, you're such a doomer. And then I try to think of a solution. It's like, what do you want me to say? I'm a 12-year-old kid. I'm just dealing with this shit the same as anybody else. But I don't want these videos to bring people down. So it's just like a weird balance I gotta play. Because there is merit in, like, describing a problem. I'm not sitting here bitching. This isn't, like, emotional. I'm not actually emotional about it. I'm kind of chilling. I'm just saying what it is. And by mapping it out, I hope people can come to their own solutions. But you need a plan. What you need is a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're just going to get swallowed up by this shit. You're not going to be able to seize your life. It's just going to all drain away. You're going to have to cope with all this media. And the years will fly by, the seasons will pass like days, and you will willow and die alone. You will wither, not willow, you will wither and die alone, brother. You gotta plan this shit out. You gotta play chess, not checkers, dog. If you just follow the script, you're fucked. That's what I would say, I suppose. Peace out, little mama.